Hey y'all, it's Renegayde, and it's time to spill more reality on all of the season premiere of Survivor 40 Several. And that sure was some premiere episode. But before we get into all the unloved coconut chopping, unhinged meltdowns, and fake medical evacuations of the episode, I need to bring back my co-casters. First off, he's forging his own path, or an attempt to forge his own path, he may burn down the entire island instead. It's Doug Dimmadab. Doug, how are you tonight, and what were your feelings on the start of this new season?
I'm doing Gouda, and I am just shocked, plain shocked that about who went home. That genuinely surprised me. I thought it was gonna be all smoke and mirrors, but
That got okay. That's always
I
a
think
great
it's
way
the
to
most.
start off with a blind side, right? And even you were
Yeah,
blindsided.
yeah. I think this is the first time I've been blindsided on the first episode since was it Mariah went home on 43.
Yeah, I don't know if I was as shocked as about the outcome of the vote as I was about some other actions that happened this episode, but we definitely deep dive those feelings in just a hot moment here because we need to also have our other co-caster join us here tonight. And he's a community member, building a community, as his human need for community inspires him to make communities. It's QuackrrJack. Jack, there was a lot of talk of community tonight. But other than that, how are you feeling about this new season?
You know, I'm someone who makes brownies with a recipe for disaster. You could call me a wolf in wolf's clothing, but I think most importantly, I'm here to suffer. And I might get a little evil, and I'm excited to beat all of your asses.
And you're
I'm excited for
59.
this season. I think this cast is talking a bunch of shit. I love that. I love people who are like, oh yeah, it's me. I'm that bitch. But I'm like, okay, we'll see, girl. Like, but so far the episodes have been messy, which it's only one episode. It's been dramatic. What else could you ask for, really, than a medical scene, uh, someone not getting a flint, and then the team without the flint isn't even the losers, like, of the immunity challenge. That's great because, like, now you don't have to worry about, like, them dying out there, right? Like, okay, you want to be off your flint for a couple days. Well, at least the team without the flint has the flint now. You're excited because it feels like there's more balance than there was in a few other seasons right off the bat.
Yeah, I liked the premiere episode. And one thing that kind of stood out to me right away was the fact that there wasn't like an opening twist that just automatically puts someone at a disadvantage too. Like we didn't see like people just getting 8 of their votes taken away right away, or like there wasn't a whole bunch of advantages just thrown at us here. It felt kind of like they were listening to what a lot of the fans were saying about just there just being too many advantages here. Like it felt like the advantages were here that well the ones that they were did present to us made sense. Like they weren't hard to follow. Um,
Mhm.
so I really enjoyed that. I thought that was good. Did y'all enjoy that part of it? Like, or are y'all missing the boat trips at this point?
I enjoyed them not really having any and focusing more on the tribe dynamics and getting to know who people are, even though some of the people we didn't really get to know who they were.
18 people is a lot to get to know in one episode, and I think they did a really good job of getting to know most of them. I really enjoy that we haven't focused as much on the idols and all the advantages just quite yet. Like, there could always be twists and turns and new things coming. I'm sure Survivor and Jeff have something up their sleeve, but it is refreshing to really get to know people as much as we can, especially since we are eventually going to get a first boot on the first episode. I would like to get to know people on at least the tribe and all the people who are involved in, like, the person being sent home, plus the relationships they may have made, and then obviously the start of the relationships and tribes of the other people in the other tribes who happen to get lucky enough to be safe. So I think they did a great episode. I'm loving that we still had a boat trip. We didn't have like an advantage boat trip, but we had a boat trip. This time, no one is being forced to do a challenge for 4 hours before you can start making your shelter. So it's fun.
And well, maybe some of the reason why we didn't get a confessional, maybe from every single individual, like an in-depth confessional, is because there was just one thing that Survivor likes to do here. That I really noticed in this episode was they do like to have like a list of running themes. Generally, it's a lot, more subtle, kind of, nuanced and whatnot in the storytelling. They were beating us over the head that this season is going to be about social relationships. I think just based off the fact that there was such a constant talking of community, and there's also this other theme, again, of forging your own path, which was talked a lot about in the opening introduction. So it just makes me wonder again if our winner is probably going to be someone who is a extremely social player who is still able to maintain sight of what is best for their own strategic game, which I mean, at the end of the day, I guess that just sort of means playing, Survivor 101. But it does make me look at, again, the more social players as players that I'm probably looking at is that they're probably the ones doing the right thing, and anybody who is really just too focused on challenges or maybe advantages too, I'm kind of looking at them like, "Ooh, okay, maybe they're not doing the right thing." Did y'all feel these themes come up here tonight, or was that just me just reading into things like I like to do?
I mean, I think you might be reading a little into it because like there's so little to go off of right now that I don't know that we can necessarily be certain that like a social player or a non-social player like is what we need to really look like. I think it's just the start of the game. Like, how do you start this social game experiment kind of thing? Like, how did you manage the beginning of coming to a community with these people, that human desire for community within your new tribe? The types of communities you'll be creating on this island as you form a bond within people, which is similar to that of a community on Survivor.
I mean, the reason why I really say that is because there was a lot of just in an overall a general point here is that like not necessarily that I think it necessarily came off as negative, but there were a lot of people that I think were focusing maybe on things other than just forming relationships that were, I think maybe had they been focusing on forming relationships with everybody instead of maybe just specific relationships or strategic relationships or advantages, perhaps things may have changed a little differently for them. Um, Doug, do you have any thoughts here overall on this concept that they're trying to beat into our heads this episode?
It felt like they're like, okay, Community, we're gonna. They should just call the show Community instead of Survivor because of the amount of times Jeff kept on. Oh, y'all are a community. Y'all are a brand new community. What's your community gonna be named? Oh, how's your community? Like, we get it.
Do you get it though? Do you get it, Doug?
No, I don't.
I mean, hopefully on the On Fire podcast, maybe Jeff will tell us. So, but speaking of the intro here, we always love a good opening intro for a season. Let's talk about the players who got opening confessionals here. We got Sam, Asia, Kyle, Tiana, John, Anika, and Sue. Did any of these players stand out tonight as early favorites to win it all, just in general to you guys?
John definitely does.
Fucked up. I think Asia kind of stood out to me. I think Anika kind of stood out. Sue, I thought was interesting because like I think we've seen a lot of, especially recently, a lot of the older um men and women getting to go further than what they naturally see of voting off first. So I think it'll be interesting to see if we get a repeat of like older women actually making it to the finales or close to the finales. Hopefully, we won't see any me Rias over here. I'm really
Oh
hoping that like
no,
we get all the pick me Rias out of the game early on.
not to pick Maria's. Well, I was gonna say, I feel like at least for like Sam, I think he got a lot of attention tonight. I don't know if it's necessarily like good attention, but they definitely feel like they set him up to be someone who's gonna have a story. Asia definitely for sure was somebody that we got to know tonight, and I don't know if I got the greatest sense out of Anika. I would say first. too much. I think she's probably gonna be someone maybe moving forward. It's gonna be a bigger character, but Sue for sure definitely was a big standout as well. And there's also players again on the mat chat. We have to bring up the mat because prior to season what 40 last season didn't happen last or no 45 in last season. They officially like the mat chat. The winner was not being talked to on the mat anymore. Um, but it's possible they may have just let it rest for a year and then they're going to introduce it back here. So I do want to bring up the people they talked to about on the mat here because they were actually big characters within this first episode, which are Gabe, Teeny, Andy, and John again. Um, do you think any of this matters here that these people are getting focused in the beginning? Because a lot of the times, I'd say in past seasons here, the first person, it doesn't necessarily mean if you just because you get an opening confessional, doesn't mean that you win. Just because you get talked to on the mat, doesn't mean you win. But it does mean they're going to be players that I think we need to kind of look out for a little bit. So my radar is on a couple of these people. Do you think this has any significance as we start the episode here?
I definitely think there's a lot of significance here because, a lot of these people end up becoming core parts of the story that we get to see early on in this episode and what eventually does happen for the Tribe of Tinsel.
I, yeah, I think for this episode especially, it had a lot of significance because the big part on the red tribe was Teeny. Sue had a big part on the blue tribe, and obviously John and Andy had a big part on the yellow tribe. And those are the four people that had the match chats.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's more like a. I'm reading at least for this group right now. It feels a lot less significant, at least as far as like winner picks per se. It feels maybe more for the story. These are the people that are at least initially, the most important. Um, I don't want to jinx a couple of these people because a couple of these people I really like, but I don't know if I'm necessarily reading into any of these people as a winner right off the bat. But we'll kind of see. Because, after Jeff Probst gives us his ever so subtle opening speech, we're taking to a clearing for the opening challenge, which felt a little more fun since they usually set the challenge up, in front of them as they're having their mat chats. Did we like this setup, or did it matter?
I mean, I enjoyed seeing it. I like that there was more, I guess, there was more of an emphasis on the actual challenge itself and getting to see kind of what's going on as opposed to everyone out there and there might be an advantage for the people who were chosen to go out there. Ooh, like so I'm loving that it's just getting straight away to an advantage, the advantage or not the advantage, sorry, to the challenge. The challenge is coming first and foremost. They explain like this is it. Like you get this. The advantage is getting your flint and stuff right away. Go back to camp. It's like it's really fun. You get to test the waters with your new tribe just off the bat. See what the unity is like there.
Any thoughts here on the opening challenge setup?
I thought it was interesting to see them like go away from like not have the challenge right at the mats and have a separate area for the actual challenge because I guess how large it was. I enjoyed like the theatrics of it being that large there.
It felt like it made more of a statement because usually like we just kind of see like a few like puzzle pieces in the sand or so, but like this felt like it was like a challenge, like that first challenge, like I feel like you always walk into it's always something big. Um, Usually this first immunity challenge is like here we're just gonna do this right off the bat. I thought it was a fun opening. So in this challenge here, they have to work in pairs to unlock puzzle pieces from three different obstacles and then assemble a puzzle and then get everybody to stand up on top of a block. And right off the bat, Gata, the Yellow Tribe, falls way behind. But they do manage to come from behind here and do really well in the puzzle. I believe it was Rachel and Anika or Annika that were doing
Yeah.
the puzzle there for them. So great showing for them. I'll be honest. I think I definitely underestimated both of them because I put them down as in my first boot categories here. I think one of them at least is going to escape for sure. But Then this forces the other two tribes to have to nominate one player to basically do a task to get their supplies. They don't know it at the time, so they just kind of nominate two people. I believe TK is chosen kind of by random chance. Asia is also volunteered for the task for her tribe, and Rome comments at this point saying that he thinks Asia makes a mistake here, saying that it's better for him to spend time bonding with the tribe than it is to, try to get supplies to win the game. So I thought that was a very interesting fact that they're putting Asia in danger right off the bat, especially because in this challenge where they're forced to look at this, play like a photo match in the jungle to get a photo. I thought this was really fun, actually, this scavenger hunt. Um, They'd have to run around, basically looking for the area, match it to where it is on the photo, and find a key. They have to do it three more times, and then it leads them out to the ocean. Asia looks like, at least from the edit, she got everything done here. Well, before even TK got his second key, but then she gets lost in the jungle for a very long time. TK apparently was lost in the jungle as well here too, but he decides to forge his own path. Eh, eh. I'm gonna have so much
Oh,
fun throwing these things out this season. We're gonna have so much fun. And he he ends up getting to the beach before Asia can get back, um, and gets the supplies. But that doesn't stop Asia from trying to just rip the buoy out of his hands to get the key. Which I was like, okay, Asia, fight for it, bitch. You get that. Um,
I
do we
would
have
love
any
the same exact
thoughts? I mean, for real, like it's
uh,
not over until he has the actual key. So get it, bitch.
right, like, I will take that thing and I will, like, plunge him under the water, hold him down by the neck, like, "Let go of it or else," like, like, "I'm getting this for my team. This is for my community, not yours."
You're about to die.
Right. I mean, I think it was interesting though when they were going to get it. This all came from the challenge, and in the challenge, Sam on the yellow team was like, "We have bad team chemistry," and was worried. Then they end up winning the challenge, and then someone else from a different tribe, Rome, thinks Asia made a critical error in her choosing to do this for the task for the team. And when they find it, it seems like the whole time Asia's completely ahead, and then can't remember the way to the beach, loses it solely just because she can't find where to go. And out of nowhere, TK seems to have figured out all the puzzles to find the keys, and he just races through here. And I was like, couldn't be me, girl. I don't know what's in the plants or what's going on. Like, I'm not trying to get this poison ivy or whatever it is. Like, come on, like, it's day one. I am not trying to get medically evac or like get taken out by some rocks or something, lose my footing. But it was fun to watch.
Like, did you like how the opening challenge here was not for an advantage, but for a reward?
I thought it was good that they got rid of the sweater savvy challenges, especially after the last time it just both tribes basically couldn't get it done in time. So I thought it was a neat way to do a new challenge and have a scavenger hunt through the woods there.
I was just waiting for them to include one part where it was like, okay, you could go get this for your team, or you could follow this to go get an idol. And one of you could have the idol, and one of you have the other thing. I was like, okay, they're gonna do something. They're gonna do something. I'm glad they didn't. They restrained themselves. They edited. I like I like that. They're trusting their cast.
I was waiting
Um,
for a cue to come out and go, "Found you, big mistake."
ooh,
Big
ooh.
mistake.
I will trust. There's plenty of big mistakes to come this episode. I'm so excited.
Wow.
I would say, I mean, I mean, there's quite a few, and we could go ahead and start off with Asia's tribe, the Red Tribe, Lavo, and right away it seems like Rome and Teeny get to work on playing the game the most here out of this group here. I think probably for one it may he is starting off a little bit more successfully than the other, but Teeny and Kashawn bond immediately while Rome and Genevieve clip up as well, and they say they want to work with Teeny as well here too. So it seems like, at least before Asia gets back, everybody wants to work here with Teeny. So she said she was going to be a social player. So good on her for making true on that. It looks like 'cause it looks like everybody wants to work with her. But she wants to keep her mind open because turns out that she is a fan of Rob Has a Podcast, and I can't help but think that they knew that she knew who Asia was beforehand. It's like, we're gonna put her on this tribe. And they were inspired by Big Brother 25 because I was getting all of the Sri Fields and Izzy moments here where it was just like, I know you. Like, and I'm like, oh God, she's gonna say something. But no, no, Teeny wants to work with her, thankfully. Um, so I think that was a really fun moment here that happened. In the meantime, Rome is busy idol hunting and is clocked pretty easily by his trimates that he's going off a lot. And Rome is he really wants to make a name for himself here, and so he has kind of big move itis kind of right off the bat. He does get the beware advantage though. But as he's looking through it, which we have that hilarious montage of him like almost falling into the water well, which I was like, they're gonna find him like head down in this water well, right? Nope, they find him after he actually gets the box from the idol, and instead of saying something, he just walks away, which is kind of like, oop. So Asia goes back and basically tells her tribe about it, and it looks like here that we have a foursome kind of formed between Asia, Kishan, Soul, and Teeny. So it definitely feels like, especially from the opening confessional that I mentioned earlier with Rome, um, talking about Asia here, that it definitely seems like there's going to be some tension between these two, and I get the feeling it's probably going to last longer than maybe just one episode. Like this feels usually when things get brought up, relationships get brought up in the first episode, it's usually because they last for at least a episode or two or three, a couple times. I think like Ellie Gabler, things like that. You don't just really get short term rivalries unless they kind of, uh, I think like end within the episode or so. So, um, I get the feeling we're kind of set up here. Like I said, Rome thought Asia was the one making the big mistake, going off by herself. But it turns out here Asia ends the segment for Lavo, thinking it was actually Rome that made the hashtag big mistake by using his time to look for idols instead of bond with his tribe mates. And that's what I'm kind of saying about the whole community, making community versus forging your own path. Who will find the balance between the two? What are your thoughts here on the dynamics here of Lavo? And uh, do we think one of the two sides here that we've kind of been shown here, the Rome side or the Teeny slash Asia side, has the advantage?
I feel like Rome might have the advantage for now because he does have the idol. So I'm afraid of who he could idol out. But unless they target Genevieve and flush his idol, then I feel like they probably would be smart enough to do that. Then the Asia teeny side definitely has the advantage.
You know, I I thought it was so interesting that Rome made that comment about Asia, and then pretty much as the exact same thing that he critiqued her for. I was in disbelief. I was like, now ain't that interesting? The person who talks the most shit always doing the thing that they thought they talked the shit about. Um, Lava calls themselves the resourceful tribe. They don't think they're the biggest or the strongest or whatever. Teeny wants to be everyone's number one, but then she tells Asia, who's like, yeah, cool, but then Asia's like a little drawn back about it. And as this is going on, you know, Genevieve has this one moment that we see her all episode with Rome. They kind of bond or whatever. Teeny thinks Asia could be their fourth to make that alliance, but because of Rome's inability to like keep it together, he starts sneaking around and making himself an easy target for them. He ends up like going out in the middle of the night to dig up that box, finds the key in the well. Asia pretty much is like, hey, yo, everyone come here. And then you have this new group of four that created, and now Rome and Genevieve are essentially on the outside. Um, and it just seems like this is now the new four alliance of Soul, Teeny, Kashan, and Asia. Just like they are going to be the people running the Lavo Tribe because Rome seems to be like pretty sus to everyone. So the Red Tribe is it's definitely an interesting mix of decisions being made, and there's a lot of funny things going on right now, and in such a small amount of time too, people just get really strange.
Mhm. Yeah, I do think you make some good points here about like who people are kind of clicking up with because if Rome again is the target and he does have the idol say he plays it successfully, as Doug said, like Genevieve could just be collateral damage at that point because she's the only one that's kind of seen as close to Rome here. So a little worried why she didn't get to speak very much here. But I was also kind of worried why Soul didn't really get very much here till like the very end, and the fact that he was shown as being right for the most part when it comes to certain things, when it comes to like clocking Rome as being a liability. But when it comes down to the certain, like I'm still a little worried because Survivor likes to put people in like positions, make them think like one thing, say one thing, and then it turns out the other person is like the liability, like happened here with Rome, saying that Asia made the big mistake, but actually it's Rome that may have made the big mistake. So uh, we're gonna hold our breath till next week, and just hope that our draft picks make it through. But right now, Lava is gonna set to be. I think they have a lot of fun, and a lot of fun dynamics here. So I'm actually very excited to see what they're gonna bring us here. Um, Next, let's talk about our tribe in blue, Tuku. Fun to say, Tuku, Tuku. Anyway, and
No.
they're literally such like I get that they only have like 4 letters anymore now for most of the tribe names, but this one's fun. Um, and I'd say I get why we're introduced to Gabe immediately because right away him and 59-year-old and we'll kick her ass or we'll kick your ass too make a day one alliance, which I was not expecting these two to click up all. But Sue also reveals that she sees Caroline as a daughter as well, in her brief moment that she was in this episode. So, yeah, Sue, getting in with these kids right off the bat. Jack, you were talking so much mess about Sue, and you have her as your pick, and now she's like controlling this tribe. Just saying. Anyway,
How was I talking trash?
yeah, yeah, no, no, no. We're not gonna relive history here, Jack. We're moving on, okay? Moving on and finding the
Okay.
positive in life, okay?
Okay.
Good thing our draft conversation was not recorded. Anyway,
For you.
well, things were looking pretty good for Gabe here. I think initially, especially considering all the connections he was making, and he makes another connection with TK. Um, but as they're going off to find wood together, it looks like Gabe actually finds what he was looking for in the Beware advantage, and in process decides to immediately go look for it without TK, which is like, okay, you're bonding with this guy, and now you're not gonna show him when you're finding it with him. Okay, I mean, I get it, I get it. But I also think he got a little too excited here because he basically starts looking for it immediately, um, and he stumbles upon the key that he needs to open this box. And it's this giant like blue hula hoop that's like stuck on these vines, and he's trying to pull it down. And as he's doing it, guess who finds him? It's TK. It was like, oop, oop. But Gabe tries to sell the story to him that maybe they found the key before actually finding the advantage. So let's just get that. And Gabe thinks that he sold a lie to TK. But I don't know if TK bought it. We don't really hear too much outside of him questioning it initially. But I think that was also the last time we spoke to TK this episode. So still potential for this to come up later here. But at this point, it seems like Gabe got away with it. He goes to Sue, tells her about the advantage, and Sue decides to help him find the idol. And at this point is where we find out how the idol works this season, which I thought was a lot of fun. In the box is an idol that's good for only one tribal council, and if he wants to continue to risk his vote to open a second box, he can get an idol that's good for the first 3 votes. He manages to get the key for that second box the next morning. However, there's a final task that extends the idol's life until the final 5. He decides not to make the move though, choosing to take the 3 tribal council idol instead. There's also a hilarious scene where I'm not sure if it's supposed to be foreshadowing or just a hilarious scene here that happens where Gabe literally drops the box with the idol down the hill, alerting like everybody that something was happening. But again, it doesn't seem like anybody's fully onto him that we're shown just yet. what are our thoughts on our story so far at Tuku, and what do we think of Gabe and Sue? And maybe Caroline, are they set up to do well here? Or is there a possibility here where maybe we're just being shown somebody quickly finding an idol that perhaps maybe they misplay again?
I did not realize that Cam from Big Brother 26 was on this cast because. Oh, I'm sorry about Caroline because I never really even saw her to even hear from her. Basically, just like there's just only 5 people here. I I do feel like Sue is having some a really good social game so far. She seems to have ends with like Gabe, and then the women are talking about how the men might be getting too good with each other, so they might be trying to target either probably like TK or maybe even Gabe. I would not be surprised if we see Sue be like Angela, and for some reason next week we see her target Gabe and go off on him. I feel
Oh
like this will
no.
be a very fun tribe.
This is the year of the older 50 plus woman taking over all the TV shows. I mean, we have Rachel in the circle, we have Angela in Big Brother, and now we have Sue. We can only hope. Jack, what's your
I
thoughts here on this
mean,
blue tribe?
the Blue Tribe, I was like, wow, so much happened there. But then I realized everything that happened on Blue Tribe almost completely was because of Gabe. And I was like, maybe not more happened on the Blue Tribe, maybe just more happened with one individual on the Blue Tribe, right? Like every tribe seems to have a person who is an immediate, I want to say outcast, but someone who's definitely sparking a lot of attention and not always in a beneficial way. Gabe makes the alliance with Sue. It starts off really well for him. Caroline makes the alliance with Sue basically. Like Sue's in a great spot, great. TK brings back their supplies. All of a sudden, it gets weird because Gabe and TK and Kyle are giving off the biggest bromance thing, and we're all like, that sucks. And everyone feels it, everyone. And then I feel like we don't hear anything from most anyone ever again, other than Gabe and a little bit from Sue and TK. Like you mentioned, TK basically gets lied to by Gabe, and TK does not believe this lie. Let's be honest. Gabe didn't sell that for shit. Like he finds the box after the advantage, but he finds the key and TK finds him. And then he finally gets to go back to it after Sue helps him and he tells Sue about the advantage. So now it's like 3 people on this team know about the advantage, but like, is TK still gonna do this whole bromance thing with him and Kyle, or is he gonna like start telling other people that he knows about it? Um, and weirdly enough, I think was it also TK who wanted to be in a in an alliance with I guess with an older person too. And so I'm
I think that was Gabe.
like, oh, was it? I thought it was Gabe and someone else, but I don't know. It was just there was a lot going on with Gabe. Gabe was just everything and everyone. He goes for that next the three tribal council thing, and I was like, yes, gamble for it. I would 100% do that too. But when he drops that box down all the rocks, and no one even people are like, oh my god, what is that? I hope he's okay. Like, so many people were not even questioning it. I was so confused. I was so confused. I was like, girl, you would have had my ass up. And I know low on calories. Like you're gonna have to like actually use them to go see things, but the people who sit around and don't look for the idols, bad things can happen to you. It's a risk. And letting people go off on their own, definitely a risk. And then Gabe waits till like the next morning, hunts for the key for the second part of it, finds it in the driftwood, makes all this noise destroying it, doesn't even bring back the driftwood. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, bring back driftwood, be like, hey, I found this driftwood, I brought it back, I smashed some of it to make it easier to bring, and like so we've got more firewood, because you're gonna constantly always need firewood out there. If you need to do something and you don't have like a full ass box of firewood like circling the whole camp, you can say, yeah, I'm gonna go get some firewood real quick. Like people will always believe you if you bring back some firewood. And so I'm confused as to how Gabe is going to keep this under wraps because he's already told two people, and he got caught by one of them, and then he gets to the third box and denies using it. So his idol's only good for three tribal councils, and I was like, girl, at this point, you already like created all that suspicion and whatnot. You might as well go for it. Like I would have gone for it. I don't know if he's gonna regret that. I feel like he is. I guess we'll have to see. But like, if it was me, I was going all the way. I'm not sure about y'all, but I was going all the way with it. I want that final like five idol. I'm gonna pull a Marianne if I need to. Have another one.
I mean, you've already gone this far, you might as well go all the way, right? Doug, would you go all the way?
Right.
They might as well just go all the way.
Yeah,
Like,
that's. I-
and for a penny, and for a pound.
Yeah, I mean, I see why he is probably sus at that point for doing it, but at the same time, though, too, like, you could always wait till like after tribal council. I mean, we don't know when this is actually happening as well here too. We don't know if this is like this actually happens day one, or if this happens day three, or this is like day seven, or something like that, where all this is going on. Like, we don't really actually know per se when he finds this box. We're assuming it's probably going to be in the first episode, but this is also could be a situation where it's like, oh well, he maybe found the earliest, and we don't really have much else to go with on Blue. Let's set up the story here for them to show how the idol works. So no, who knows? We'll assume here that Gabe found it first here. So, yeah. Well, Gabe is definitely becoming, um, someone I'm a little. I don't know if how clean he's going to be playing here. So, that's why I had hesitations for putting him very high on my list here. But he's still fun. He's still entertaining. So, um, I'm still here for his Jolinsky antics. So, that'll be fun to see what happens here on Blue. But let's go ahead and go to Yellow, who, um, yeah, um, Gata is definitely a tribe, and we definitely have to talk about them. Um, and the- all I
Mhm.
gotta say here is really Andy. Andy is the season. There is this tribe, and I don't know how I feel about Andy here. A lot of the story on this tribe here is told from his perspective and John's perspective, especially since they bond right away, deciding to work together. Andy realizes that he is able to get one more person on his side. If he's just able to bond with one other person, then he's at least safe with 50% of the tribe, and he probably can't go home, right? Right? Well, problem with that is that as soon as him and John literally go off to go talk, everybody else decides to come together. So we have Sam, the glue guy, as he decides to call himself, Annika, the leader. We have Rachel, and who's clearly good at the puzzles. And who's the other one? Sierra. Sierra. Don't know much about Sierra, but she's there. Sierra's there. And it seems like right away they're pretty locked in. Um, I was kind of surprised that they showed us this quickly. Like it felt like I was like, oh, when I saw this, I was like, is there gonna be like any like tension really in this tribe as far as like where like the vote's going? Well, no, we don't really get too much I'd say tension per se, as we just get a lot of like antics that happen here. While John is still worried about his position being the oldest male on the tribe, Andy decides to pull Rachel aside to complete that plan that he has to, lock in two people and get three solid votes together, At least cause a tie, right? But Rachel feels like Andy's acting or his tactics here of just openly setting themselves apart from the group is not a good idea, especially when people clocked him and John doing it earlier. So when Andy can't sleep the next night, likely due to his paranoia of not fitting in with people, as apparently he's so keen on knowing whether or not he fits in with people, he pulls Rachel aside in the middle of the night and decides to express his worries to her, but she pretty much just disregards him and calls him insecure in a confessional, which I was like, oop, Rachel. Definitely getting the villain Reddit from her. Andy instead gets the vibe after this conversation that no one, especially when no one cheers for him after opening his coconut. but they all cheer for John. He's like, oh, no one cheered for me. I'm on the bottom. Which I mean, okay, good read. You did read. But like knowing what we know what's coming next. What were our thoughts here initially on how the Gata Tribe's dynamics were shaking out? And did we expect to see the Sam plus Women's alliance form on this tribe?
I mean, I called it from the get. I told you that Sam and Sierra were going to be a huge, like, they're two definitely going to be together, and they'll probably get the two girls more than likely with them. There's something strange about this whole like Andy and John both being queer, and then the other four being like and Warwick's group, and I was like, that made me a little questionable because I was like, people said it was based on the vibes, and I was like, to exclude the gays, I wasn't sure 100%, but I also recognize that John is older than everyone, and Andy is the one to watch on this tribe where it's like Andy, uh, who was it? Andy, Rome, and Gabe were all kind of like fighting for who's going to be the biggest standout of them all. At this point, Andy does end up winning eventually that award, but he makes this alliance with John because he feels a connection to him, and as soon as he goes, number one rule: as soon as you split off, everyone else starts talking. We get to know everyone a little bit more than we have on any other tribe. We find out Anika, I'm sorry, is her name Annika?
Like a
Okay. So we find out that she takes a leader position, helping them figure it
or
out.
wait,
Sam's glad it's not him. What?
Anika.
Isn't
It's
it?
wait, Annika.
Anika.
Annika.
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 Annika. Okay.
Annika.
Annika.
Annika, she takes the leader position, helping them build the shelter. Sam's like, oh, I'm glad it's not me. But Sam calls himself the glue, and I was like, I don't know who told Sam that he thought he could be seen as the glue and not the jock, but like whoever told him that lied. They lied to him several times. He will not be playing the part that he thinks he's playing. At best, he's playing the glue until like Andy and John are both gone, right? I mean, him and Sierra are going to be glued together probably, but
Ooh.
I'm not so sure about everyone else. Like, I think it's more of a desperation alliance at this point because Andy kind of gives us that Banu vibes of Banu being like ooh, that's on our tribe. Yep, we got someone on our tribe. And Sierra has this little insight of like, she's been preparing, she's got everything ready, she's like the first to make fire. She's excited. John's outcast, feeling weird, but he's so glad that Andy's here for him. And then Andy just starts to make that whole like numbers game idea so weird. It was so hard to watch. It was cringe because he's like, I will get into Rachel's good graces and we will be friends. And we were like, okay, maybe we calm down a bit, sweetie. And then it's like he's like, Rachel didn't immediately say that I was her number one. I have to wake her up in the middle of the night. And she's like, we should not be doing this. And he's like, yeah, I hear you. So, anyways, come to sit down next to me. And she's like, girl, what? I just said, what? And so Rachel obviously is like, okay, I'm tired of this shit. I don't want to be the one in the middle. Don't make me like the middleman. Like, we are not it. We are not together. Andy's upset about that, talks to John, and like John starts to worry about Andy and the alliance that they've made. And so now every single person on this tribe is like, who? Who's the sixth member of our tribe? Jeff, did you forget someone? Are they left out in the ocean maybe? Like everyone is having a field day because like it started out well when they had their baptism in the water when they're cleaning off the mud kind of thing is what they called it. And by the time before the immunity challenge, I mean, we have the most paranoid person I think we've seen in Survivor history, the fastest. I want to say, like, it's concerning, and everyone on the team is feeling the vibes are off.
It's definitely giving week one Angela HOH with a little bit of like Ben from last season. But I'm like, oh wait, Ben at least had like a couple episodes before he started having his the anxiety affecting him. Like this is night one. Night one. or maybe two. Night one. Like, Doug, what were your thoughts here on this yellow trap? Or I should just say Andy.
I think he kind of reminds me of Badu from last season on like probably the Badu on steroids because at least Badu didn't start unraveling until like what until the vote was happening and he got told about something to his face about someone voting for him. And he's like, no one's even said anything to him, and he's already spiraling out. But I could see this could end up like how Bonnie was last season, and they could potentially save him to take out someone else, like how Q and Tiffany were supposed to take out the eventual winner.
Oh,
But
Kenzie.
then we had Kenzie, but then they had the medevac.
Uh,
Oh, yeah.
So
that's a good
I
point.
could see
That's a good point.
maybe Sam and Sierra maybe taking Andy, using him as both, maybe taking out Annika.
Hmm. Yeah, I see. I mean, it is. We could kind of talk about this in a hot minute, but um, I don't think Andy is dead in the water as we think. Uh, but he's definitely going to. I think he's gonna struggle with his mental health throughout this game. So, you know, especially with what was
We're
about to happen
struggling with
here.
him.
Um, oh yeah, this next scene was a struggle. Honestly, I don't even honestly really remember too many details about what the immunity challenge was in details, other than having to like get chests from the water and then like bringing them up in the sand and then put together a puzzle.
Uh,
And they capsized many times here. Um,
oh,
but
God.
it was
God.
in Gata especially capsized quite a bit. So as Painless said, they're wearing yellow. They're Delulu. They're the train wreck tribe. So they fall behind once again, just like they did in the first challenge. But this time they are not able to get that amazing come from behind victory. Like this one was one of those ones where it's like they could have just edited it in any sort of way to just like end it like quickly, but they like drug this out to make this like show how far behind and how terrible they were doing on this puzzle, to the point where it was just like I get why they did it, because you could see here that they're going for the editing, right? That editing touch. They really wanted Emmy this season. And they did this to Sierra during the reward challenge, which I thought was weird, where they did like this thing where like the sun was like in and out, and they were doing the thing where like maybe you're like getting dizzy and you're gonna pass out. Like they were giving that edit to Sierra for some reason in the reward challenge right before they won. They started doing that to Andy here, but then all of a sudden, as things are like slipping through his fingers, and the more hot, and he's out there just standing there, because he's not even doing the puzzle. Um, he goes down to lay in the shade, and I'm like, oh Lord, we're literally getting another Survivor 44 Brandon moment here, where someone in episode one is literally going to be medevaced out for heat stroke. But Andy is definitely much more lucid here. I don't know if he just starts like talking nonsense or whatnot here, but it feels like he might be having a bit of a panic attack. I feel like more than anything, because what he's saying, especially when Jeff is talking to him, is not that he's like out of it. Like he's clearly talking. Like we've seen people get heat stroke to the point where they literally they can't say anything. I mean, Caleb literally almost died for being, how much for the heat stroke he had. Like he was probably tired, but I think you add that into the fact that he was already having his paranoid spiraling moment from earlier. Like I think this was him just having a moment where he realized his game was doomed and was just kind of, it, it, I don't really know, honestly. It was just kind of cringe to watch, especially as he kept justifying it. And then when he literally says in front of the entire cast that he was going to throw somebody else under the bus to keep himself in the game. Oh my gosh. Andy, Andy, Andy. This was, I felt such extreme secondhand embarrassment for just everybody there, honestly. It's just like, this is not only hard to watch, but it's just like, Like I get the pressure that he's putting on himself, but I feel like anybody else that ever goes out there that like it's a Brandon Survivor 45, there, yeah, you'll be voted out first, okay, but at least don't do this to yourself on the way out. Like, why? What were your thoughts here on Andy? Just, making the entire challenge about himself and not even letting, Tuku and Lavo enjoy their victory. Like, how dare they make him talk all about themselves?
I felt a bit bad for him because it's like he's had that social anxiety and he probably hasn't dealt with it really. He may not have dealt with it. He just naturally got out of it, but going into this type of setting and not not having people talk to him might have had him go revert to back there, and he's having kind of a panicking and being such a super fan, seeing that that's how he goes out. I think I can see him having that type of panic attack to make him relive high school on his favorite show is not a good vibe there.
Wow, Doug, wait for making me feel terrible for judging him now. Thanks a lot. Jack made me feel better. Judge Angie for me.
Happily. So, I want to back up a little bit to this challenge where everything starts to go wrong. That like starts down this breakout. Like the challenge was just unlatch the boat, paddle it to three chests to pick up their pieces, then use the boat when you get to shore to like transfer the crates or whatever through that weird guided rails to the puzzle area, and then put together the puzzle. It was a very simple puzzle as well. And this is where I think it's funny that Sam earlier said, we have bad team chemistry. Because I was like, is this some foreshadowing? And apparently it was. You know, they get on their boat, and immediately Gata is going the wrong direction. I don't know what is happening. Everyone seems to be rowing on the left, and not many people rowing on the right, so they're just going completely all the way to the right, away from their pieces. And it like this is probably where it really starts for him. And he's like, okay, so now we're probably gonna get last place. But then Shuku flips their boat, and at the same time, Gata's finally starting to get it together. They push their boat slightly away from the chest, trying to get to it. It's so funny, and then they flip their boat. Lavo is out there in the front, doesn't flip their boat. Nothing happens. They are just like over there doing the puzzle while the other two tribes struggle to get out of the water. Like it's almost as bad as that time when Jonathan had to carry his whole team out of the water, and the other two teams just could not do anything, and so they actually stopped the challenge because the water was so rough. After Jonathan like saved his whole entire team from dying in the middle of the ocean and took the ladder back to land and finished the challenge, and they're like, "All right, everyone, now that Jonathan has done everything and completed the challenge, y'all think it's fair if we stop the challenge, let y'all come to shore and do it?" Like that's how bad it was that Lava was ahead of them. Like Lava wasn't even aware how ahead they were at one point because Lava's over here like celebrating that they got their puzzle pieces done, and they look behind them. They're like, "All right, so how close is everyone on the puzzle?" They look back, see that the boats are anchored to the bottom of the goddamn ocean. Like they're just like slowly trying to pass some water out. Like you see John just like instead of turning it all the way out underneath and like flipping it again, he's just trying to paddle some water out, and they're all like, "What is going on?" They everyone finally gets to the puzzle. It's it was difficult. Everyone's given their all. Clearly, both of these tribes are struggling. Sam, Rachel, and Annika struggling with their communication. It is a very simple puzzle. It is the picture of your buff. Like everyone has a guide right there for them. The other tribe is already done, so they already know what it's going to look like 100%. Can't figure shit out. And Andy was like, at this point, Andy is exhausted. The sun is getting to him, but he's having that panic attack about how everyone's going to vote his ass out. He's going to be the first person off Survivor. No one's going to like him. He's going to be hated forever. And he's having the biggest, panic attack. But instead of helping his tribe while they're trying to do this puzzle, he, plops down in the sand because of this like panic attack happening, and you're like, "Are you good?" Like Jeff was like, "Y'all good?" And Jeff doesn't even stop the challenge. Like, no, keep going, keep going. Just like medical. Can we get medical over here? Andy's freaking out. They get him in the shade. He comes back. Jeff brings him to and is like, "You good?" And he's like, "I was giving my all out there. I just, had a moment. It was heat, it was exhaustion." He could have left it at that. This bitch decides, you know what? Let me tell everyone all of our team tea real quick. And he's like, "So, y'all need to know that no one on my tribe likes me because not a damn person even clapped for me when I opened up a goddamn coconut for the first time, but everyone loved John's gay ass doing it. And then John is my only friend on this tribe, and I was gonna throw him under the bus, even though he's my good Judy. And I can't believe that this is how my game ends right here, and I was going to try to convince you all to get rid of John." And everyone, all 17 of the other cast members and Jeff, fully stunned. We're all shooken here because I thought he was just going to quit. I thought he was going to quit right then and there because I was like, the damage is done. He threw himself into the embers. He is a bunch of flames. Like, I was like, throw him in the ocean, girl. He is like, his game is up in smoke. Like, come on now. And then Jeff tries to place him back on the rails from the derailment that Andy has created for himself in this moment, and is like, "Yeah, but it's not over, and you're still in the game?" Question mark. Like Jeff is like, Jeff's getting paid. He's like, "I'm gonna get a raise for that one." um, and so they get the other two teams out there, like, "Take your rewards and please leave." Also, uh, Red Tribe, don't forget, here's your Flint. Yellow Tribe, I'm gonna need your flint. Don't worry too much about it. Jesus Christ. Like everything is going bad. Everything is going bad. And we're like, I didn't even see the immunity idols get put out. I didn't see them going for the rewards. I think everyone was just like, "I need to get out of here, girl. I need to go." Like everyone in that moment was like, "Okay." So like this is great that we know that one team is a goddamn mess, but yikes. The embarrassment was not
Yeah.
secondhand. The embarrassment was like it was like watching the train wreck that you couldn't stop kind of thing. But you had pulled the lever to stop the train tracks, and you were so excited, and then out of nowhere it gained double the speed, and you were like, "Oh shit!" Like everything got worse. But it was good entertainment. I'll give you that one.
Yeah. Oh Lord. Um, I don't know. I'm just can I just say thank you, Andy, for having this moment because now I know I feel like I could go on any show now, right? I could be voted out first, and as long as I just don't react like this, I'm good. I'm good to be the first boot. I'm like, you know what? All right, well, I will gladly go out quietly. Just don't don't give me this edit, please, Lord. And the best part about this is, Andy didn't even go home. Because you know
Yeah, that's
what?
great.
You know what? When we get back to camp, y'all, John decides, you know what? I have to be Andy's lifeline. I have to strategize for him, even though he was basically saying this whole entire time what kind of liability his alliance with Andy was. He still has his back and decides to try to work out a plan to get rid of Annika. And he goes and floats the idea to Sam. But, Sam has already made his allegiances here, and all this did was make Sam realize that maybe John might be the better move, because not only is he not, 5150 status at the moment, he's also coming up with some good strategies. He's also probably the weakest player that they have outside their alliance, and Andy is better at challenges. So, do you think this was the right move for them to, or sorry, the right move from John to try to get votes on Annika, or should he just let Andy to just die? Just let him go. Just let him sit on the. You know what? I'm gonna get up on this boat here, Jack. You know what, Andy? I'm sorry. You could just sit here floating. I'll never let go. I'll never let go, and just very slowly let your hand go.
No. Andy nailed shut his coffin like 30,000 times. There's chains wrapped around it. There's like cemented, and somehow John decides to come over here with this whole tools kit. I don't know how they got this through the screening process. Like, how did this whole tribe end up with like a jackhammer, a screwdriver, a wrench, he had a crowbar getting him out of the coffin. Like, he's like, everyone's just like, let him go, girl. It's fine. And John is like, I'm not letting him go no matter what. I don't know. Doug, talk about it before I go off on a rant.
Uh, I can see why John was trying to go for Annika because they were telling Andy that it was him. So in his mind, they could just be bluffing him and actually voting him out. So instead of like having to just hope for the best, he just put his fate in his own hands, and that very backfired in a big way.
I
I
mean,
mean, oof.
I, I do appreciate the fact that he was willing to, take a big swing. I just don't think he needed to. I don't think he needed to in this instance. Like, you don't need to take a big swing when someone is literally burying themselves right in front of you. Like, oh, oh, that was rough to watch. Um,
And where did he get the shovel for that too? Because like between what happened after the thing, like I want to talk about it a little bit more. Actually, I'm sorry.
Oh, it
go for
was
it.
Um,
Go for
inside
it.
that fifth box that Gabe
the
found.
the box of the idol it just came out of that they didn't show for this try. um, Somehow, okay, Andy gets back to camp. He's explained to everyone, y'all, I had a moment, and we were all like, yeah, yeah, you did. Like, was anyone else like, he had a moment? Like, girl, this was dynamite. This was like there was so much going on. I didn't even know where to start. And he's like, I'm what he says something like, I was like only 80% there at the challenge afterwards. And I was like, so 80% isn't like minus the 20% is already enough for you to flip on your closest ally and send him under the bus. But continue, right? Like, and he starts apologizing to his tribe, and John gets in those witty comments like, "You didn't throw us under the bus; you threw me under the bus." And I thought I was like, "Yes, get shady. That's funny. I love that." And Annika's even like, "That's a huge concern for us. Like, he has a day 3 outburst. Like, he's crazy." But then everyone on his team does that fake shit, which you got to do in this game. I respect it 100%. They all start being nice to him, and they're like, "Girl, we get it 100%. Like, that's totally like not on you. Like, it happens." And we're all like, hmm this has this happened to anyone else? Anyone else had this experience possibly?
Not
No,
recently.
okay, yeah, didn't think so, right? No one had this experience. So then John told the girls like, "Hey, I'm frustrated and I want Andy out." And everyone's like, "Yeah, that's cool." And they're like, "We'll just use your name as the decoy since he already was kind of planning for it, and then he'll be cool with it." And as soon as John heard that, he said, "Wait a damn minute. I need to go get the paranoid hat that Andy was wearing, and I need it, like, to save myself." And I was like, "Mm, no, you did not need it," but he still went for it anyways. He started to dig Andy out of that grave, stole his paranoid hat, and then is like, "Andy, we're gonna work together because if I'm gonna go out, we're gonna make something happen." And I was like, You didn't trust that everyone wanted to get Andy out at that point? You didn't trust that?" So then he goes to the most sus person on the tribe in Sam and is like, "Hey girl, like we need to get together and vote out Annika because Andy said so." And Sam is like, "Oh, yeah, no, you guys are totally right, 1000%." And you could tell he's like does not care. He's like, "These people are crazy. I don't believe them." So he immediately tells everyone what's going on and how John is now off the deep end. And John and the rest of the girls are like, "Well, now we have to decide, do we need tribe strength, physical strength, by the way, physical strength, or do we need a crazy person gone?" Like that was the question right there. And I was like, how do you throw yourself into the flames for someone you just met? Like, I'll never understand it because I don't have that like kind of sense of moral necessity to help someone that I just met when I'm on a game of Survivor for like millions of dollars kind of thing. Like that's not it for me. But then the tribe decides that they have to figure it out before tribal council. And I don't know how it got turned on its head. I don't understand how anyone thought anything. This it doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, I see it happening. I see why. Um, but I love the fact that uh, John and Andy, or John especially, was just so dead set on recreating the end of Saw 5 when they're just like, Andy's just like, just get in the box and you'll be fine. And he's like, no, Andy, you get in the box and let me get squished here in this room. I'm going to do it. So,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like, I will say though, at tribal council, I don't think really too much happened here. It was kind of just more of the same that kind of happened back at camp here. But John made a really good point that I wish like the cast of season 46 could have listened to here. Knowing the difference between like the natural and the unnatural target. And I thought this was just kind of a very brilliant advice. Even him being an early boot, knowing that, just because there is someone that is out there as, a very natural target, like the obvious target, doesn't mean that there is someone else that could possibly be voted out that probably shouldn't be. And, you should always be a little worried that you should be the secondary target. And maybe if a little bit more people were aware of that advice, they may have played their idols last season. But um, sadly for John, though, his spidey senses were right. He didn't have no idol, so there was nothing he could do about this whole situation of being the first player voted out of Gata, as Andy is kept for his physical strength. Was this the right move for Gata?
Nope.
Hell no.
Yeah, I kind of get the feeling that they might win challenges here, but I get the feeling that their safety in the game, not just their physical safety, per se, because I don't know if Andy will actually be as unhinged as like a Matthew or whatnot. I mean, we'll see. I kind of hope he gets like a Matthew edit. That'd be so much fun with him just sharpening the machete in front of their face. Um, especially because it seems like he might be becoming a little bit more unhinged. We saw Annika's face, so I mean, who knows? But um, Andy to me feels like he's being set up as that player that maybe we don't expect to see him get to the merge. He probably shouldn't get to the merge, but he does get to the merge, and they're gonna look back at this vote and be like, "Why didn't I vote out Andy beforehand?" Like, kind of, it's giving me the stripes, kind of giving me a little bit of Survivor 43's Yellow Tribe, with Gabler and Ellie. Like I brought it up earlier here, like it makes me like that Ellie's group is the younger group here where they had to decide between Mariah and I think Gabler in the first vote, and they decided to not take out Gabler, and Gabler ended up being the person that took Ellie out when they got to the merge because they never lost again. Um, that's what Andy is giving me the setup as is that individual. So um, he also probably, I mean, he's a fan of the show, so he could find an idol, which would be bad for everybody else there, especially because I feel like he's paranoid enough that he actually would play it right away. I don't think he would hold on to it. So, um, I mean, I'm very kind of interested to see where this Andy narrative goes here. I'm not gonna put him on my winners prediction whatsoever at this point until he shows that he's calming down a little bit and he gets a little bit more acclimated to the game here. If he lasts that long. But I definitely see the potential of a very long term story for Andy being set up here, especially because I always refer back to my least favorite winner now, outside of the game, Survivor 37, having the narrative where he was kind of set up in the beginning as a huge target, and then kind of very slowly working his way out of it until he's set up for the eventual win. They like to do that a lot to their winners. I don't know if necessarily this is the editors doing that or Andy trying to do that himself. But I definitely think he's going to be someone that we need to keep our eye on. But we're talking about winner picks here, not necessarily character picks. So, Do y'all have any thoughts into next week? I want to hear your top three winner predictions at this point after seeing one episode, some arbitrary interviews, and knowing absolutely having no idea where this unhinged cast could possibly take us to in the future. I need to get your in-depth predictions now. And Doug, I want you to go first.
Well, my first winner pick is definitely Asia.
Good
She seems
choice.
that even though she was gone for I don't know how many hours, she was basically able to ingratiate and create a group of four real quickly, and seems very well liked and has that number one in Teeny.
Actually, I have Asia on my winner pick as well, or my winner list as well too. So we can just talk about Asia actually if we want to. Jack, do you have Asia on your top three list as well here too?
I do.
Tell us why.
So outside of her being my pick in the draft, Asia is on my list because I think what she has is a sense of awareness that some people in the tribes right now are we've seen are definitely missing. And I'm not saying that we know for a fact that that'll happen for sure going forward. I mean, we kind of saw a little mini glance into the future, right? Where um Lavo still seems to have this issue with Rome. So like because Asia and Rome might have that weird relationship between them, like people are gonna like her more, and therefore like she's gonna have better alliances going forward. And I think she has a really solid four going forward. I also see it as a possibility that she could maybe make some connections with other people from tribes like Gata who might self-destruct. Like maybe she'll make good connections with Annika if she stays long enough for Rachel. Like there's a possibility. She seems to be well liked. She seems to be able to talk to people, and that's why I have her up there. Is I just think she is a chill person who knows what she's doing and in very control of her actions.
I definitely agree. Asia is definitely someone that I am absolutely rooting for 100%. Just because she just got such a great story in the premiere. She's someone else that, unlike Andy, who had to force his narrative here, Asia just felt like she had like a natural narrative that kind of just formed around here. So, she's definitely somebody that I see being, some that we could see probably hopefully make a long term run here. I'm hoping. I would love to see her last really long. Obviously she has the Rome art or the Rome situation to deal with here. It's possible she could be a target, obviously, from that, but I mean, I feel like if anybody could work her way out of it, it'll be Asia. She definitely knows the game, so would not surprise me if she ends up being someone that makes a deep run here. And someone I kind of want to bring up as my second potential winner pick, and I'm curious if y'all think here too, because there was a scene here, again that I brought up earlier, especially with dealing with Miss Asia, that makes me kind of very much so feel like Teeny is going to be another huge strategic social threat in this game, especially with I mean, me reading obviously into the edit from the episode with them really focusing on community and the fact that it really seems like everybody likes Teeny. Nobody has had one negative word to say about her. And I mean, even Rome, who was on the other side of the lines, wanted to work with her. So I see her really being someone that is going to hold a lot of power in this tribe. She's definitely holding the information that she knows who Asia is. I mean, to herself, and it. So I think that her holding that powerful or that information close to herself, the fact that it doesn't seem like anybody else is clocking it at least just yet. I think that's a good sign for Teeny's arc. So, personally, for me, I have Teeny really high on my winners list here. She's actually number two right now, next to Asia. Do y'all have thoughts here on Teeny? Do you think she could be a potential winner?
I don't really see it personally, but I think it's a possibility. It's not like a guaranteed will never happen, but I don't think so myself.
I think I think I could see it with Teeny because Teeny did have that three with Genevieve and Rome at the beginning and wanted to give Asia a chance, and then now she also got that four with Asia still and Keyshawn. So she definitely ingratiated. herself into the tribe very well with the social bonds. So, but I don't have a teeny as one of my winner picks right now because I just wanted to pick one from each tribe.
Ooh, okay then. Who's your second winner pick then?
Sue,
Okay, and why Sue?
because Sue has had a decent social game so far by connecting to a lot of the people, but she doesn't seem like how I think it was Mama J was on 45. She doesn't seem like that type of older woman that she's gonna play like that. So I feel like she won't be seen as that big threat that everyone's gonna love them at the end. That stops that type of like the older mother archetype from getting to the end. And I feel like she'll definitely be conniving and definitely will be able to backstab people.
I mean, you make valid points here for Sue, absolutely. I don't know if I'm sold on her 100% just yet. Actually, I have her as my number four. She was like my alternative person that I was possibly thinking about putting in the top three here. I think I went with somebody else, like a random pick. But Jack, do you have Sue on your top three?
Sue is definitely someone I'm considering. I was kind of confused on who to put this third pick. She was one of the two people that I was like, I think I could see her going all the way. And I think she's a great pick for that. You know, she starts off with good alliances. Her alliance will end up having an idol that could come in handy. It seems everyone on her tribe seems to generally like her. Um, the only thing is like she has a story already, so it's a good sign. Like you don't necessarily need to have a story on the first episode, but at the same time, if you do have like a good positive story in your relationships, you know, those relationships may be important later down the line, and they might be maybe the most important thing and the reason why you make it to the end. So maybe she's at least someone who goes really far in the game, and that's the reason why.
Mm-hmm. Well, then, if she's not firmly in your top three, who would be?
So this is like my dark horse could happen and very like questionable. Why would you pick this person kind of thing? But my like out there pick right now is Genevieve. And the reason
Okay.
I picked her is because I feel like I saw the least amount from her specifically. And I was like, wait, which one is she? And I just think that that's so interesting that they kind of glossed over her. I mean, to be fair, there were a few other people that I think they really glossed over, especially like Kyle and Tiana. But with Genevieve, it's weird because she's kind of on the outs, but not fully without connections to people. And I think that there's something to be said about how maybe her relationship with Teeny could really come in handy in her staying longer than other people, especially if Red ends up in the bottom once. Um, I could see Rome informing her specifically of if he has the if and when he gets the idol, whatever he uses it, kind of thing, right? If they try to get Rome, it ends up being a blindside. Genevieve is aware of it. She might have that connection to the information of what's actually going to happen. And you know, if someone goes from the four, let's say, because Rome and Genevieve don't go, all of a sudden it opens up this possibility of it could be a 2v2 and there's a third person in the middle making the decision like Teeny, and maybe Teeny goes with the first people that she was good with. I mean, they were good with, but like I'm not sure where it's gonna go from this point. So Genevieve is kind of like my player to watch because like Tiana and Kyle, she hasn't had anything.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I'm a little more down on Genevieve, but for the exact same reasons that you said. It feels like, at least from my perspective, uh, since we didn't really hear a whole lot of her relationships outside of the fact that she's really just close to Rome and Teeny, how it makes me feel how this will probably go down is that they'll try to get Teeny and maybe like Teeny pull in like in Asia or somebody like that. Um, to cast a vote against either Soul or Kishan. But it feels like definitely for me, that the other four would probably be splitting their votes between Genevieve and Rome, just to make sure that if the idol does get played, then Genevieve just goes as the collateral damage. But you never know. Your reasoning though for why somebody is kind of being excluded from the edit, but they kind of got a little bit of screen time beforehand is actually one of the reasons why I'm going with my third pick. Um, but I just want to confirm before we talk up a little bit further there. Are your top three Asia, Sue, and Genevieve, or did you have a different third than Sue?
It was kind of like a tie with Sue. I was considering the possibility of like Tiana, mostly for the same kind of ideas as Genevieve. So it was kind of just like there. Or Annika, honestly, was I think Annika was like probably closer to taking the spot just because I can see a world in which she sees the Sam Sierra thing going too crazy, and I also see the world where Rachel is so gung ho on getting Andy out, and so is Annika. That then they form the two, and they realize they might have to use him to separate the other. I don't know. I just see a world where Annika has the ability to socialize with people, and Rachel is a little off-putting in her edit, in my opinion. She's just not the most warm and welcoming person. It's not that I don't like her, because actually I kind of found myself liking that she was so honest to us about Rome. But as a person who also is very honest, I know that that's not always something people like to see, because it can come across as a little cold.
Okay. I mean, I can see Annika going pretty far here, actually, now that I kind of see where her position is here. But she wasn't who I was thinking, though. Doug, who was your third pick here? Because I think you had Asia, Sue, and
Uh, I was looking at the yellow tribe. I feel like Sierra could have the best position here with Sam, and being in a duo with that. Sam looks like the chalk, not like the glue guy, as Jack mentioned. So Sam could go first in that duo. But I'm just gonna throw a wild one out there. I'm gonna say Andy. I feel like based on what we've seen, he might could have the chance to turn everything around. Don't know if it'll be like an Aubrey type of like uh hope maybe an Aubrey type of like going from the panic attack to really great social player. Maybe hopefully he doesn't get a bitter jury like and go wrong.
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, of the men, Andy would be someone that's very high on my list here as well here too, just based on that fact. Um, I'll kind of need the next step. Like, I'm gonna give him like two more episodes before I can kind of like officially go in on Andy. But I think he's gonna be a character regardless. Regardless if he's someone who might be like maybe end up being Austin 2.0 and just getting second place, or even a third placer person at this point. I don't know. I think Andy's probably going to be very important to this narrative. Uh, but I do not have him as my third. My third, in the vein of Jack just being random, with like the Genevieve and the Annika situation here. I'm gonna throw out Kyle, just because Kyle got an open confessional. I'm very curious why they decided to give Kyle an opening confessional to make sure that we're aware of who he is. Then him and Tiana literally just disappear from the edit whatsoever. So it's very curious for me why I'm very intrigued why they decided again to introduce him and Tiana too. Tiana I could probably tie Tiana on this here too, but I'm just putting Kyle up here because he's my draft pick between the two. Um, to be honest. Plus he had that very um I'm pretty sure it was just the camera shot, but like him running off into the jungle, I just thought that was really cool. I don't know. I don't know. Um, he just gives me someone that's gonna vibe socially. So if we're going on someone like who's going to be a social player that's gonna win, I definitely think Kyle could do that. And it's very interesting that we literally have no idea other than maybe a brief connection that he might be working with TK and possibly Gabe, like where he actually stands in this tribe. Like I feel like his spot is going to probably be pretty important. It just makes me feel like they're kind of purposefully leaving him out for a little bit, and then just because again he could kind of fit in anywhere, and he's also the kind of person that even if like things go wrong, he ends up without the numbers. I don't think he's gonna be the target. Like if it ends up being a situation where like Sue and Tiana end up bonding together over the pilot thing like we thought about, and Sue actually commits to the alliance with Gabe and they pull in Carolyn, I don't think they would eliminate Kyle. I think they would eliminate TK because TK is very clearly shown to be like the opposition. I think Kyle can just kind of really vibe in anywhere here. So I'm not upset he doesn't have a story more so than like my other pick, Soul. Like I'm a little worried he doesn't have a story. But Kyle, I'm not that worried. I think he kind of float for a little bit before he kind of really needs to take some focus. So I just want to throw Kyle's hat in the ring there. Do you have any thoughts on Kyle or anybody else here in this cast here before we close up our final thoughts here on the season? Or sorry, on the season premiere.
Honestly, for me, Kyle gives me kind of like I guess Aussie vibes, where I just think he's going to be seen as too much of a physical threat when it comes to those individual immunity challenges, and I think it's going to be one of those. We kind of got to get out these stronger guys later on. I think that's got to go. I think as far as the thought process of Andy, I also just want to mention that after his blow up in front of every single person in the game, I just find it really hard for him to make a comeback that strong because I think everyone's going to be very weary of working with him. Even if he is like, oh, no one on my team liked me kind of thing. The way he just straight up, like, just exploded. Ooh, I worried. Um, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, those last two picks, honestly, I'm a bit questionable on. I think this is going to be a season really where I don't think we're being shown the winner arc just yet. I really don't. As much as I
Yeah.
do love Asia, um, I'm just not sure really 100% unless it's somebody again connected to Asia here, again like a teeny maybe. I don't know if anybody 100% has set themselves up as the winner arc at this point, which is fine. I mean, we don't need a situation here where we're getting Kenzie being called the mermaid dragon on episode 3, so we all know that she's probably going to be going towards the end. Or a scene about Dean B's big toe that will likely probably come back to
Oh.
foreshadow her winning an immunity challenge at some point. Like or Jam Jam just being Jam Jam. Like sometimes we're fine having like an Erica type winner, and I would be okay with that as long as they are able to edit that person better than what they did to Erica. So yeah, Doug, did you have any final thoughts here on our season premiere?
I feel like so far the ideal final three would be Rome, Gabe, and Andy, if that could ever happen with all that messiness.
Not Team Chaos. I mean, this has been the year for chaos. Angela's still in the Big Brother house. Rachel's still in the circle. Sue's here. So you never know. You never know. Well, despite Andy's cringe, as always, I still can't wait to see how this season turns out. I think we're very primed to have a very interesting start here. I don't really have a great sense of where things are going to go, but I think that's going to be the fun of this cast in particular is just to kind of see where they kind of take us. So I hope y'all are ready for a trip because for better or worse, we're about to take one together, y'all. Um, and I hopefully, clearly, you're excited if you made it this far in the podcast. Thank you again so much for listening, and please like and subscribe because it lets us know that you're enjoying the content. Be sure to catch all of our continuing coverage on Survivor 47, Big Brother 26, Global All Stars, and so much more. Again, so many shows, so little time, but we'll get reviews on everything that we try to watch this year for sure. Until next time, though, y'all, and on behalf of my co casters, Doug and Jack, this is Renegayde signing out. Remember, keep spilling that tea, y'all. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.